brought that do-it-yourself water quality book just to make mention of the fact that this partnership, or at least this conversation that began way back when, before I even became interested in politics. I should probably talk on the mic, huh? Yeah, so I brought this with me just because I was just kind of thinking back. I've been here for 8 years in Ticonderoga. My wife originally had brought us to the area. She works for a national paper. And when we were looking for a house, Chris was one of the people I got in contact with through our code enforcement officer here in the town. So it's kind of interesting to come full circle to be your welcoming speaker this morning on this SALT Summit. So I'd like to thank Chris and like to thank the Fund for Lake George for choosing the northern part of the lake this year. I know this is the third annual SALT Summit, but the first time that they're hosting it in the northern section of the lake. The town of Ticonderoga is, as you know, nestled between Lake Champlain and Lake George, and with the Lachute River connecting it. In the distant past, Ticonderoga has been a key location in shaping our early nation, and in the more recent past, the industrial mills that have flanked both sides of the Lachute River from the Lake George to Lake Champlain, harnessing the power of the river and their manufacturing processes. But present day tourism, has become the mainstay and a larger driver of the economy here in Ticonderoga, bringing fishing tournaments as well as vacation goers to the region to enjoy the waters of the area, both on Lake George and Lake Champlain. And even more so with the rich history, the military history and the industrial history, we've had a resurgence in the arts and museums and interpretive experiences that have further drawn more and more people to the area. So clearly, this lake region, this water region that we're in is a huge asset to our town, as it is to many of the towns that neighbor Lake George. And I think one of the interesting things to me about this region, every water region is a little different. Lake George having these massive hills, large mountains on either side, make the poignancy of these kind of discussions all the more important, because with high changes in elevation, the water obviously flows into the lake much more quickly than it does on lower lying areas of our in other parts of the country. And so the physicality of our region is very key, and the watersheds that we all live in is very key. Obviously we're here talking about salt because of the salt we lay down on the roads, and salt laid on roads in areas such as our town or other towns in the area have a much quicker, a much shorter time scale with which they can get to the lake. And so it's much more prudent on our part, to be cognizant of how to mitigate that salt increase. So like I said, I've been here for 8 years, and when we first moved here, I had a young son, and and one of the amenities, the enjoyments of the area is obviously the natural resources and beauty of the lake. So we had firsthand an opportunity to rent during the winter season a cabin on the lake, and we had bought a kayak and took our little son out, the three of us, almost every evening, and just kind of enjoyed the area. So certainly not being from here, but quickly being engrossed into what the region has to offer has certainly left a lasting mark on myself and my family. And also, in my background, I had studied fluid mechanics, so it's always fascinating to be anywhere where you can see science playing a part in the region, especially in the discussions that have taken place, in topics such as this and other ones. And that actually would lead me to when I was talking with Chris and I was asking him what to share, and he mentioned talking about some of the challenges that Ticonderoga faces. So we've got two big ones, and I know the SALT Summit talks about salt reduction, right, that impacts our waterways, but it also talks about stormwater management, which is a conservation effort. And in Ticonderoga, and I'm sure in many other municipalities in the area, way back in the day, as these new sewer systems were being implemented, the thought process was, well, let's combine stormwater and sanitary sewer and try to mitigate those particular resources together and handle them together in one centralized plant. And way back in the day, that probably worked okay, but as times have increased and more development has increased, our residential areas have become inundated with more impervious pavements and so forth, which has led to more and more stormwater collection, which has inundated our sewer plant. So as it currently stands today, our sewer plant's undergoing a massive $14 million improvement project. It's not just the plant itself, but it's also a few other key components which help to address the stormwater issue. So just speaking specifically about the sewer plant, right now it handles about 3 million gallons of wastewater a day. 3 million is actually a pretty substantial amount, considering the town produces about 1 million gallons of drinking water every day. However, when you have a rainflow event and you have a watershed shaped like a bowl that sort of funnels everything together, it's easy for that plant to experience 40, 50, even 60 million gallons of water a day moving through that plant. Not in the course of the entire day, but flow rates, relative flow rates. And so you can easily see how a 3 million gallon sewer plant cannot handle 40, 50, 60 million gallons of water in a given time period. So certainly what happens with that combined stormwater and sanitary sewer water is it has to bypass, and it bypasses, our plant, and that's obviously not a good thing, especially in a world of increased regulations. We have to try to monitor those things, because that ultimately affects the health and the well-being of the lakes that we enjoy so much. So one of the big projects that we're working on is not only increasing the size of our clarifiers, making them go from 3 million gallons a day to 6 million gallons, being able to process that, but also there's other advocacy groups in the area, and one of them has offered us a grant to do what's known as a daylight stream. And I think Saranac Lake might be one of the other, I don't know if they're here at all today, but one of the other communities that has participated in a daylight stream type project. And essentially what that is, this area, because of the way it's shaped, has a lot of streams that make its way from the mountain peaks down to the water. And obviously in this area in Ticonderoga, they run right into the Lachute River. But over the years, development has sort of thwarted the natural runoff that would make its way there, and we've mitigated it and migrated it different directions. And so what we're doing is going back and looking and saying, how can we take these mountain streams, which now funnel into our sewer systems, and redirect them into a way that just handles their treatment. They don't need the same type of treatment that our sanitary sewers do. And so what we're looking to do, and again, this is always a conversation that takes place, a discussion much like the one we're having here today with all the presenters that are going to speak. How can we reintroduce a stream where there is no stream today? And what Ticonderoga is doing as part of this $14 million project is separating stormwater from sanitary sewer and bypassing the sewer plant through it, but doing it through natural processes that allow the biological processes to help take out those particulates that it might pick up along the way, and have it get to the waterways as it normally would have a long time ago in the natural state that it's in. And so one of the things that the town is doing is having a daylight stream go through the heart of our park. Our bicentennial park is kind of like the crown jewel of the town, and always a topic of great conversation, for its impact in the town. And we've been working very diligently with all the different partners in the area, especially International Paper, who once was located in that area, to try to come up with a very sound, economical and environmental way of handling stormwater, so that we don't, discharge untreated combined sewer and sanitary or stormwater and sewer overflows into our lakes, because certainly, that's stormwater management, just like salt reduction, is a very key and critical component to to the long-term health and well-being of our town. That's kind of a long-winded description of one of our projects that we have going on. I just would touch on, since this is a salt summit, our highway department in the last several years has also been a participant, having received some equipment and some funding to do salt tracking. So we've got one of our trucks, I believe, is actually outside as a demonstration model of a monitor salt spreader that's hooked up to equipment that monitors the amount of salt that's being laid down on two key roads in our town. The northern part of Lake George has a residential roadway down either side, Black Point Road and Baldwin Road. In fact, I was at a Black Point annual meeting not too long ago, and this very topic was a very large source of engagement among the community, which was great, because obviously this is something that is certainly catching the eyes and ears of residents and becoming a talking point, which it should be, because it's a very important issue to address as we work to try to maintain and preserve the health of the lake. So, with that, I think I would just I would say in my background, I have, growing up, I was the son of a weatherman, and I think about the technologies that come forth. I think about the approaches and the science, and all that kind of goes into these things, and they become great talking points. And besides the reduction models and so forth that are going on in the towns, besides like the new technologies like the live edge, I'm sure that will be spoken about today, or the brining technologies, another critical thing is just the observancy, the awareness that we have of the practices that we do. I mean, part of this forum today is to garner new information that we can apply to our everyday practices and try to implement them, moving into the future. So I think that those are key elements to be aware of. And so I would just ask that I'm happy to be here with you today and discussing these topics and to the challenges that our communities face in preserving the lakes, the natural beauty, the water quality of our lake and our region. And whether you're part of an owner or an employee in a private business, or here at a municipality, or an elected official, we all have our own roles to play. And certainly I'm an advocate for applying the science learned through the evidence-based research that has been going on for decades, with the Fund for Lake George and their research, and how that science has kind of began with the underlying issues that has evolved into new technologies to implement better practices, and ultimately creates new policies that hopefully will be adopted to preserve our region for many, many years to come. So thank you for the opportunity to share some of my thoughts with you this morning, and I hope to have many more conversations with many of you in the future. So thank you.